Greetings, greetings, good morning. Good morning, sending you all some warm, positive vibration. Shout out to all of my early risers. This time of the year now, there's a 2 hour time difference. So I'm still up just as early. So sending you all a shout out. Welcome to the channel. So this early day, moving around in the quiet wee hours of the morning, cleaning, beautifying my space, putting on lots of greetings, putting lots of sweet scents, right? All of these things are things that we have access to change our mood. Even if you don't have incense, you can old school, you can take some cinnamon and put it in a pot and boil it, right? It's old school wisdom. Reactivate the ways of the grandmothers. And you can boil it to add like a sweet scent in your home, because all of these things are affecting our senses, and it can actually affect our mood and change our mood. So any tool that we have at our disposal that's accessible, that you can do sustainably, leverage it. So this early morning's contemplation, I was just thinking about trauma and how we don't realize it, right? Because remember, we have a subconscious part of this brain, the control center, right? This organ, this fatty organ, which by the way needs good, healthy fats. And it has different functions of the brain, right? Mental activity, there's different types of processing. And there is a way that we process trauma. There's a way that we process trauma, especially in our early years. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a medical doctor. However, I do have divine onboard innate intelligence. There's a communication system. So I have made a conscious decision to listen into it. And that only gets more refined the more I take the time to relax, to breathe, which helps me to get present and to listen. We can call it voices, not even so much voices. It's intelligence, it's communication. Of course, we've been trained to think and to process in reading and letters and pictures and sounds. But I would dare say, like, there are emotions that we can't find words for. There is an intelligence that every human being is born with. So being that our brain is so malleable and we're so highly influenced, I will submit to that. I might as well leverage it. If we're going to be programmed, and we've already been programmed as adults, we might as well program ourselves. And even though programs may not be able to be removed, we can write a new program, right? Shout out to my son who put me onto the fact that, Mom, when you clean off the computer, those programs are still inside the computer. He said, but they just go to another part of the computer where they're not taking up so much RAM, right? All of the random access memory, or it's not taking up all of the conscious space. So shout out to the to the young adults. So is trauma affecting our body? Now, I don't think that there's any human being, or most human beings, the majority of human beings, are not going to make it through this lifetime likely without trauma, especially as children. And as children, there's certain things that now we can articulate as trauma that we couldn't articulate as trauma when we were little. For example, if someone left you in a room, or I can remember an adult parent that left me, my dad, he told me to wait for me right here. And we had a little foyer in our building, and he probably went across the street to get something or whatever. And I'm a young girl, right? And he told me to wait for him. And so I have the eyes of a child. I'm not processing as an adult. See, this is something for us to be mindful of, because culturally, and many adults today, we don't give young people a break, and we expect them to be processing, children to process as adults. That's not their responsibility. Anywho, my dad told me to wait for him, and he probably just went across the street or something. But and also the way that I remember it as a child, he just went away for a few minutes, and I'm small and I can barely look over. There's these little glass windows in the door, and I could barely reach up to look through the window. So I'm waiting for my dad, and I feel anxious and I feel kind of scared. And when he left, somebody came in and pushed the door open, and I mean, my little heart was racing. Now, my dad came back. He got me, and we carried on about our business. But to me, as a child, that felt like forever. I was so scared. And actually, that's a very prominent memory. There are many things, right? That primal protective part of our psyche holds on to, and it's huge, right? It's a defining moment. There are many defining moments. Actually, as a species, we have a tendency to remember and be triggered by the most negative, or what we say is negative or traumatizing, because it taps into our basic fears. So for those few moments that that my dad was gone, we went across the street to see something before he came back to get me, I think to take me to my grandmother's house. If I tap back into it and I just sit with the emotions, right? The emotions that I felt scared, I felt unprotected, I felt abandoned. And the thought, I can think right now, like it was yesterday, I can think of the ticker tape of thoughts that were running through my mind. Why did he leave me? Like, why did he leave me here? Did he know somebody else could come and could get me? I can remember that clear as day. So I don't know if you all, and this is not to trauma bond at all, right? That's not the purpose. But the purpose is to run a scan. Their memories, their stories that we tell other people when we first meet them, stories that we want them to know, that we want to feel heard. That's a clue, right? And then also there are defining moments of fear almost being embedded within us. And these things, right, in order for us to protect ourselves, they're being triggered all the time. And so all kinds of simple things could be happening, and they're triggering these behaviors. This definitely affects mindless eating and also compulsive behaviors. We demonize often compulsive behaviors like drugs or anger or lashing out. However, I invite you for a moment to have some compassion for yourself and other human beings, and to think when you are scared, it's primal, it kicks in. There is no logic. So I invite you to scan your body, And it may come up now or later as you move around quietly in the early day. Consider that there may be early traumas that are actually affecting our relationship choices, our food choices, our avoidance of things that are uncomfortable. Another way of perhaps looking at this is if you've had early experiences, perhaps of athleticism and reward or pleasure, or what it feels like, the physical rewards and the esteem and the sense of overcoming an accomplishment that go with physical activity, you may have a whole nother experience when it comes to discomfort around your physical movement practice. Many of us don't have that. There are many of us that grew up without athletics. I wasn't athletic as a child. I would have loved for someone to put me on a sprinting team, now that I know what sprinting is, and dance. The first time I saw someone doing, like Alvin Ailey dance, as soon as my eyes saw that, I was like, my eyes latched on it. I was like, what is that? I want to do that. Right? But that just wasn't on my parents' radar. So there are many things that are our vision, or things that resonate with us. Some children or some people see artwork for the first time and they latch onto it, right? It's an intelligence that's in your DNA. Some folks see artwork or hear an instrument, and what is that? And some people can play intuitively. So rather than beat up our human parents for being human and having a whole set of traumas, even if they were good parents and not present parents, we can perhaps release them and release ourselves and free up so much energy and relaxation and focus as we take responsibility for writing a new chapter reframing our narrative, literally reframing our narrative. What is the lesson that I can learn from this? So we can let them go and free them up because they have their own human journey and their own life path, spiritual path. And we can also free ourselves up as we just sit with whatever they did or didn't do. I'm sure my dad didn't mean for anything to happen to me. You know, I'm sure he didn't mean that, but my life, I'm not a child anymore. But that part of our psyche doesn't, it's not mature. It's hurt. It's primal. It has nothing to do with logic. So sometimes I'm like, why don't you just, I often looked at the adults growing up and like, why can't they stop smoking and drinking? Why can't they stop fighting? Right? Even us as children observing adults fighting in their behavior, we're processing this stuff as intelligent human beings, although we don't have an expansive communication, we're processing this stuff. So watching them work this stuff out, I remember thinking, mommy and daddy, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're processing this stuff. And when we're watching parents or the adults that are human being go through things, it makes us feel unsafe, right? If our stability, right? If something happens to mommy and daddy, we can surmise that that's going to affect very quickly, our intelligence, that's going to affect my stability. All of these things are packed down into our subconscious, and I invite you to consider they affect our consumption choices, not just physical food, but the things that we so-called compulsively, right? Again, we demonize compulsion, we demonize ourselves, we make ourselves wrong, we beat up on ourselves without really comprehending our own psyche. And that's not something that's focused on in school. Maybe it's considered very adult concepts. So I invite you today to scan your body, right? To give yourself space to have an experience that perhaps can shorten our learning curve or give us access without it taking us another 10, 15, 20 years to access and free ourselves up that resistance or the preoccupation with other things rather than being present and getting into action, right? Because action is where our results are. Action is where transformation or getting to another level of development. It can't happen merely just looping the old trauma or the story in our brain. Transformation happens out here on this 3D plane. When we pay rent, bills, get cuts, feel uncomfortable, get gas, where we have physical sensations on this particular plane. And we're in a time where everyone was so spiritual that sometimes we can use that to deflect and to be accountable and responsible to the reality that if we want change, we have to get into action. And life in this body temple is not waiting for us. It's aging. We can rejuvenate it. We can do things to preserve it and keep it young and vital, but it is aging, right? Time stands still for no one. So it is to our benefit to have a healthy curiosity, like how we approach things can make a big difference. To have a healthy curiosity about our sabotage, and then also to put a lot of energy, right, into what will motivate me to get into action around what you say you value. If you value health, if you value peace, and without demonizing yourself, if you're unable to get to the root of your triggers, I invite you to cultivate an inner listening and a quiet, which perhaps if we tried all the other stuff, maybe perhaps this can be more efficient if we start to get into alignment with what's going in through the back door, the subconscious, which is driving, that's a fact, is driving the majority of our behaviors, and compulsive or reactionary or knee-jerk behaviors, right? So relaxation can give us access. So you're invited to take a comfortable position. If you have issues with your knees or your back, you can sit upright in a chair and tilt the bowl of your pelvis upright and take your belly button, pull it gently in towards your spine. You can roll your shoulders around, down, and back so you have a lot of space between your shoulder and your ear. You can find a comfortable position where you're able to keep your spine upright. If you need to put a yoga block or a pillow underneath your glutes, your butt, so that you can get a little more height, that can help your knees and your hips open up a little bit. And we're just going to deep breathe. No religion required, no gurus required. Just a quiet listening. And by the way, I think I may add just some relaxation or some meditation. It's so simple. No big boo-ha, necessary. So we're just going to do some deep breathing. And we're inhaling and exhaling. Isn't it interesting how we make this such a big production? So many techniques. However, today we're just inhaling and exhaling through the nose. I invite you to consider listening to the rhythm of your breath, if it's even, if you're able to synchronize your inhale and exhale, and see if you can make them as long and as deep as possible, because the lungs are down here, not here, so that they can expand with oxygen. And just the rhythm of it can help you relax, and your eyes can be closed or open. So you're welcome to take a few moments to just ask a question, a contemplation of your own divine, onboard, innate intelligence. No middleman, no middlewoman required. You were born with it. So you can ask a question like, is there anything that I'm avoiding? Is there anything more that I can do? You can ask yourself, what is my heart's desire? You can also ask a question for guidance if there's something that you're working on or working through, perhaps a vice that you're looking to let go of. Or you can even ask a question, how come I'm avoiding getting into into action when it comes to taking care of my body temple. You can even ask a question like, why is my face breaking out? And not control the answer, just listen. And if it doesn't come to you now, perhaps while you're moving around the garden or preparing your tea or preparing your healthy food for the day, your intelligence will communicate with you, but it's not going to fight against all the noise that's out here, which is why I encourage you to grow something, right? To grow some plants. It's interesting. I'm always looking at the plants. They're open and closed. You become more attuned to their behavior, and we're just like the plants. So your intelligence, it's a part of our intelligence, right? That is not going to fight against the noise. It requires us to listen, to get quiet and to listen. So I invite you to inner listen. It's a good time perhaps to write a few words or a couple of sentences in your journal. It can be just a word. Like, I'm really just feeling the word courage. Courage, right? Who do I have to be, right? How can we shorten that learning curve to get into action? So a state of being, I think, can give us action or give us access. Who do I have to be, the person? What state do I have to embody? What mentality do I have to have? And see, it's not perfection. There's a lot of spells and manipulation and access that we can have just with words. Just with words. So it takes courage and it's going to take courage to get into action. And however imperfect your movement practice is, keep yourself safe. But it's going to take courage to do what you don't feel like doing because it hasn't been a ritual or a habit. It's going to take courage to not eat so much salt, even if it's sea salt, because your body doesn't need it. It takes courage to turn off the screen, right? And to get into alignment. But you'll never regret a day of movement or exercise. You'll never regret taking a couple of minutes to lay on the floor, as I say, sometimes middle of the day, maybe put a timer on your phone for 2 minutes to lay on the floor and do nothing and relax. Relaxation can shorten your learning curve and give you access to your divine onboard intelligence. So with that, I am inviting you all to create a great day on purpose just because you said so. Whatever's going on around here, my mom said, don't let nobody steal your joy. And choose to create a great day on purpose. That could be by putting 2 little seeds. Hint, hint. Shout out to my folks in the cocoon. Put a couple of seeds in a little pot or a recycled carton. That's what we used to do in grade school. And plant it and water. Even if it doesn't grow, you're going to learn something. You're going to get in alignment with your intelligence because we are greatly connected to nature. And I also invite you to appreciate the environment that you're in. We have a tendency today to look at Instagram and think everybody has something that we don't have. Everyone's situation is better. Wherever you are, beautify your space. Shop in your own closet. You might have shopped for a whole lot of produce that you're not even using. Wash it off, throw out the old stuff, compost the old stuff. There's so much that we can do and that we can leverage with what we have access to. We can even make a positive use of the internet. So y'all create a great day on purpose. Check out Kwasa with the K, Peaceful Eating on TikTok. I think you will find some stuff that will make you giggle and smile. Joy, I think, is very important. Greetings, shout out Love One Way and Laura Rosetta, sending you all some warm positive vibrations. And go look in the mirror and look at yourself and see what you got over there, right? So I was making some teas. I think I'm going to share some things, some rinses. So actually, let me go off here because I want to make this short because I know people have limited on time, especially in the morning. And I'm going to come back on and talk about some things that I'm still learning about this year. All right, y'all. So if you're going off to work, make sure you got your beautiful food all lined up in your gorgeous containers. Shout out to my folks in the cocoon. And if you want to see exactly what I've been doing all these years, how I went from a junk food junkie to someone that adores and really has the mental capacity to eat healthy, check out Whole Living Foods in the Hood. That's a love letter to all my young people and my folks that may be the one person that's like, yo, my health is important to me. And I know what's waiting for me if I don't make some other choices. And it's a joyous lifestyle. It is actually a fun lifestyle to eat healthy. All right. I'll see you soon. I'll come back on.